Hey leaders, I'm excited to be attending the Scale with Stability Summit this April 24th through the 26th at Harding University, and I would love for you to join me. Many of my clients are attending. This event is designed for faith-driven entrepreneurs and business owners looking to scale their businesses without stress or burnout. And right now, you can get an extra 20% off with my exclusive code Catalytic20 at checkout. Visit scalewithstability.com to grab your ticket. I'll hope to see you there.
It is an honor today to have Rusty Fulling on the podcast. Rusty serves as founder and CEO of Fulling Management and Accounting Incorporated in Olathe, Kansas. Since April 2000, Rusty's been focused on helping business leaders make sense of their numbers, grow their profits, and gain peace of mind. With a passion for mentoring others, Rusty seamlessly integrates faith, storytelling, and humor into his leadership approach. Beyond the professional realm, he's a dedicated family man, celebrating over 32 years of marriage with his bride, Pam, and he loves hanging out with their two daughters, their son-in-law, and they are very active. They have very active granddaughters. I'm so glad you were here. Thanks for being on the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. And I'm going to have to update my bio. I just realized I missed a year in our marriage. I know. So we can
got to get credit for that.
Edit that out, please. So I need to get credit, or my wife needs to get credit for all those years.
Well said. 33 years.
33,
well done.
Coming up on 34 even. So yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
We're cranking away. But no, thanks for having me on. So.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
I would love, Rusty, for you to share some of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
Yeah, that leadership, I would say I approached it reluctance and curiosity, if I could start with those. So reluctance, I resonate a lot with the early stages of the story of Moses in the Bible. Hey, I am not, I'm not a good speaker. Who am I? I'm not qualified. And I love the quote, God does not call the qualified, but qualifies the called.
Yes.
And I think I'm constantly reminded of that through leadership. But that's definitely one. And I think the other one is curiosity. Love great podcasts. I mean, like yours and others where you can just listen to other leaders and learn. And so part of that's just learning to ask the right questions or asking questions at all. Sometimes it's all about us. And there was a friend of mine when, kind of going back to the leadership piece, I was at a CPA firm, working at a firm, and I had a colleague of mine over lunch one day say, "I can't believe you haven't started your own company." And it was just that affirmation of a friend, William, that just is like, wow, somebody believes in you kind of thing. And so I think it was part of that curiosity and that reluctance coming together and just that affirmation. Boy, that's really what kind of sparked really the company that we're in today.
Wow. It's so funny, and I wonder if that person knows what a difference they made with a comment like that.
Yeah.
It's so funny how powerful words are, isn't it?
It is. And going back and he probably doesn't even remember that lunch, all those years ago. But we've had chance to visit over, it's been several years now, but yeah, sometimes those little moments. And so sometimes we're the message giver. And so, we need to be open to making sure we're affirming those that need to be affirmed in those areas.
So stepping out of an established firm and stepping into your own thing, that comes with a little bit of fear, a little bit of trepidation, and a whole lot of hard work.
Yeah.
What was that journey like?
Yeah.
What was that transition
not
like?
A little bit of fear, a lot of bit of fear, William. Come on now. I remember, that first year, so we launched Fulling Management and Accounting is our company. And we had 3 little clients that we started out with. And definitely the income was probably cut by about 2/3. And we had 2 little ones at home. And I was the sole breadwinner at the time. And yeah, definitely a little lean, but I'll tell you, there's so much freedom, I would say, in when you're leaning into the right things. I think for me, I think that was one of those things you just felt a weight lifted off your shoulder. I think when you're in your calling, when you're really leaning into your purpose.
I love that. I imagine that when you made that leap and revenue gets cut, you got to start figuring out how to do what you do with less.
Yeah.
From that point, it was probably just straight up and to the right.
Exactly.
Just a rocket ride,
Exactly.
right? No difficult days, no
That's
challenges, no second guessing.
Yeah.
That's how it goes, right?
That's how it goes. You bet. Yeah. And it's funny, going back to the, the word reluctance and curiosity. I think, even starting my own business, I did not see a business as much as probably just a job, a job. I'm doing this job, and I had a great team member, coworker, and literally, William, for the first 10 years, it was a job. We just putted along. And I think it was about year 10, I had gone on a mission trip to Honduras and came back just all euphoric as far as this amazing experience. And my wife and I actually talked about leaving this area and going and being missionaries. And I was sharing that with a small group of friends. And one of the friends said, maybe the mission that you're being called to is the business God's already put you in. Oh, it was just that wake up moment that thought, oh my goodness, I need to be a better steward of what we've been given. And if you were to look at a chart, when you talk about up to the right, that is really that tipping point where all of a sudden it's, we need to actually have a vision, and we need to be working at this. If we're being called to this, man, we need to be working it as if it were God's, and really putting, kind of our belief system in what we do every day. And so, that's where core values developed. That's where kind of our mission developed. And so about, right around that year 10 mark was kind of I would say, kind of rebirth of the company, if you want to put it that way.
I love that story because I think there are a whole lot of people, and perhaps some listening, who think you got to have your values, you got to have your statements all nailed down. Everything's got to be perfect before you start.
Yeah.
And that's what's holding them back from starting.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting for all that to be perfectly established.
Yeah.
You did not wait.
I did not wait. Yeah. Your perfection versus progress story reminded me of, I've got a 5-year-old granddaughter, and I was ironing a shirt, and she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, I'm getting out the wrinkles." And so she watched. And so when I went to put on, she goes, "Oh, I see wrinkles." I thought, oh my goodness, I get this 5-year-old critique, but my point of that is sometimes, you're exactly right. We wait for perfection before we move. And sometimes we need to do what I think it was Seth Godin said, just ship it. You just got to go.
Yes.
And so I would say for us, core values, that was a big step for us from the standpoint of clarity as far as who we want to work with. Really, what's our values? What are we bringing to the table, and how do we operate? And so that has been a really pivotal moment to making sure you're defining those. I'd say early. You may not have them day one, but do spend some time on that.
So would you be willing to share one or two of your culture or values? Yeah,
core values. So our core values spell out the word GRACE, GRACE. That stands for growth, represent the client, accountability, champion attitude, and eternal impact.
I love that. It really seems to capture so much of what you talk about matters most to you.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point. Sometimes we separate the business from the personal, and say going back to the curiosity and watching those leaders that are just incredible, running these or, leading these big organizations or healthy organizations. Boy, a lot of times there is that integration between the two. It's not here's how I am at work and here's how I am outside of work. So yeah, definitely if you can incorporate those, it's just going to be so much more natural in your leadership.
Now that brings up a point, that integration. This is something that I talk with people about frequently, this idea that you can compartmentalize different parts of your life. Yeah. And that what happens at home won't affect what happens at work.
Yeah.
And that your faith won't affect what happens, with your team in the workplace. And I think the idea of compartmentalization is something we inherited from the ancient Greeks. And it's a cute myth. It's just not true. Yeah. And I love how you talk about integration, because I think that's what it means to live a life of integrity, where every part touches every other part. Has that always been important to you, or is that something you've learned along the way?
Yeah, definitely. It's a learning, and I think still learning. But it was probably 10 to 15 years ago. I think we heard a leader speak about work-life balance versus work-life integration. And sometimes I want good work-life balance, and a lot of times that is that separation. I can't think about work. I can't do this, and where integration almost becomes a little healthier in our environment. We're a virtual team, and we're invited into people's homes. When I'm talking to our team members, they're working in their homes. And so we are integrated. And so if we look at that as unhealthy, then that's going to be a challenge in our environment. But we've just found so much value in the integration word and in practice. Yeah, it's just been a healthy model for us.
Leading a virtual team is very different than leading a team inside of an office setting where you're all together in person.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you've learned about building a healthy culture in a virtual environment?
Yeah. We started really totally virtual back in 2020 during the COVID season. And one of the things we immediately found helpful was just those daily check-ins, those daily buddies, buddy system where you're just checking in from a mental health standpoint and minimizing isolation, that kind of thing. And so even today, we still have some of those check-ins and those we do. In fact, we've got one coming up. We'll call it a timeout, where we actually do almost like a fun lunch time on a virtual model, and where we maybe do a game or so forth. But we're definitely more intentional. I know in this, we do have an all-play staff meeting every Tuesday morning where we have everybody share their wins for the week. And
I love that.
Maybe some shout outs. And so we look for ways to, just kind of invest in our team weekly and then incorporate serving and fun opportunities. And so serving, it's amazing. One of the things we do virtually is we do a 5K to raise money for World Vision for clean water initiatives. Well, you can run from wherever you're at or walk from wherever you're at. And so a lot of our team does that. I think it's coming up in May this year. And then once a year, we fly all of our team in to Kansas City, where we're kind of headquartered, and do a big 3-day offsite event or on-site event in this case. And so we'll do a family picnic. We'll do kind of a strategic planning day. And then a day we'll actually serve in the community. And so it's just been amazing to see just I'd say the health that's being built in those models. And we've had multiple team members say, I felt much closer to my virtual team than I ever did working for a company where we were in person.
My goodness.
Those are some fun comments, and just kind of it's neat to see those kind of things happening. So,
creating a culture like that is not something that happens accidentally. And I think it's important for every one of our listeners to understand, you didn't just stumble in one day and realize, oh, wow, we have this healthy culture. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah. Yes.
You were very intentional in how you built this.
And I would say intentional, not without its stumbles. So learning from, hey, what's working, what's not. So like we'll do a SWOT analysis, or we actually do a 4 helpfuls: what's working, what's broken, what's missing, and what's confusing. And so we'll do that model once a year with our team. And it's fascinating to hear those kind of things, from a team perspective. The other neat thing is we'll bring in outside leaders just about every week to our staff meetings via video to do some type of teaching that goes along with our core values and our culture. And so if you're constantly talking about those things that are important to you as a team, it just infiltrates, and it's like, we have a decision to make. Oh, here's our values. We know exactly what, how we need to make that.
You don't have to continue to make the same decisions over and over again.
That's correct.
You've pre-decided what matters most.
Or it doesn't have to go up to the top of the food chain to say, how do we do this? It becomes an easy decision.
I love watching entrepreneurs build businesses. They're so different. Every one of them is so different. But in your case, we are so similar, you and I, in that our faith informs so much about who we are and how we lead. When you are in your culture, in the culture of the business that you started, where does that play a role? Like, there's so many people I think who listen to this and they're like, I can't bring my faith into who I am as an entrepreneur. They want to hold that back because they feel like, well, that's personal, or I don't want to be, trying to beat people over the head with this or in an unhealthy way. How do you lead from your values as an entrepreneur?
Well, I think you just hit it, values, and defining those values first, because it can be, if it's kind of that secret values, well, people aren't going to know, what do you stand for? So I think that starting with that values list is extremely helpful. Everyone, when we hire somebody, one of the first things we do before they even come on board in the interview process is we talk about our values, and it helps people opt out if they want to opt out, but it also helps those that want to opt in. Yeah, I'd like to continue with that. So that's one. I think also learning from other groups, other people that have gone before us. There's a great group called Unconventional Business Network, and they do an amazing job equipping business leaders who want to apply biblical principles to their business leadership. And so, we'll partner with groups like that. Global Leadership Summit is another incredible group. Yeah, that I know you're familiar with. And just learning from those other leaders that have gone before us. No sense of reinventing the wheel.
I want to take a minute to tell you about an event that I'm really looking forward to and excited about. The Scale with Stability Summit, happening April 24th through 26th at Harding University. This is Arkansas's #1 business growth event, bringing together faith-driven entrepreneurs and business leaders who want to scale their businesses without sacrificing their faith, family, or sanity. You'll hear from incredible speakers, including Damon John from Shark Tank, Kevin Harrington, the original shark, and Willie Robertson from Duck Commander, plus some of the best business minds in leadership, marketing, and growth. I'll be there, and many of my clients are attending as well. Right now, standard tickets are already 25% off, and as a listener of the Catalytic Leadership Podcast, you get an extra 20% off with my code Catalytic20. Go to scalewithstability.com and secure your ticket today. I would love to see you there.
Getting into environments like that where you're with other people who are of like mind and like values. That's why I've continued to go back to the Global Leadership Summit every year for 25. Yeah. This will be my 26th year this year.
Nice. Yes.
To attend that, because I find value there, and I find synergy with other people who hold similar values.
Yep.
And we can learn together and challenge each other and grow together. And I really want to challenge our listeners, if you're not doing that intentionally as a leader, and even better with your team, you're missing a very important part of the leadership that can take you to a different level.
Absolutely. And even with that too, I think even in getting involved with small groups or mastermind roundtable type groups,
yes,
that can challenge you and encourage and help you, equip you in some of these areas. And so, don't think that the danger, and probably if I look back 25 years when we started, the danger is you feeling like you're totally alone. And
yes,
I'm the first one to ever do this. And so I think there's so much value to be learned from, again, those folks that have set the bar already and a little bit further down the path.
Well said. 33, almost 34 years of marriage.
Yes.
A family man who has prioritized his faith and his family. And the business has not suffered. The business has grown over the years. That's a balancing act. And you talked a minute ago about work-life balance versus work-life integration. What's your secret? Like if somebody were to ask you, hey, I'm at the beginning of that run, I'm starting the business and I've got a young family, and like, how do I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think going back and prioritizing, there's a great book called The Strength of Purpose by Elizabeth Dixon. And one of the things she talks about is defining your own purpose statement, or, almost your core values or your mission statement. I guess that'd be better. And I think, if you can define those as a couple, if you're a married couple, define those, what's important to you. That's going to help answer the question you just asked. For us, family was very important. And for my wife to be able to be a stay-at-home mom, that was something she really wanted to do. And so that meant we needed to make some changes in spending and different things like that. And it wasn't always easy when your friends are going, well, you need to be doing this, you need to be doing this. But defining those early and being on the same page, just sometimes spouses can go different directions, but doing that together, that's been something that we've seen helpful. It was definitely helpful for us in just seeing those that have been successful in marriages and especially during those tough seasons. Well, just knowing, and who I can go to for support. Again, that's a small group. I look back on those early stages and some of the most critical times in our young parenting, young marriage is having another couple that is supportive and just coming along beside you. So again, kind of like business leadership, don't do it alone. Find those healthy relationships. Could be an older couple that's maybe a mentor relationship, but I would say those have been some of the things that have been helpful for us personally.
That's a lot of wisdom there, Rusty. As you now in your business interact with so many different business owners and leaders who are struggling with this whole accounting thing. Yeah. And they look at their spreadsheets, they look at their numbers, and it's just a sea of digits. They're like, I don't even know where to begin. I talk to these people. I see them. I hear what they're saying, and they don't know where to go. Yeah. What is it that you do to help bring some cohesion, some understanding to all of that?
Yeah. We talk about helping business leaders get clarity, grow profits, and gain peace of mind. And one of my favorite quotes from one of our business owners we got to work with years ago, he goes, "You help me sleep at night." And I thought, man, if we're a good sleep aid, awesome. That's a great mantra. Some of it going back to the get clarity. It's funny. I was thinking of when you asked that question, I was thinking of a group of surgeons that we worked with a number of years ago, and we would bring in these 20-page financial reports, William, and their eyes would glaze over, and you're just going, "Oh, this is painful for all of us." And so finally, one day, I thought, okay, we are not making progress, and there was a lot of stuff going on, and they just weren't getting the cash flow process, and so I went to the bank and pulled out 50 $100 bills, so $5,000, and I sat down and I handed them each of them 10 $100 bills, and then we started going through scenarios. Okay, if you do 2 surgeries and you take one of Dr. Bill's surgeries over here, that means Dr. Bill, 2 of these bills go over to Dr. Dan, and it was fascinating just having a visual, an expensive visual, but a visual. All of a sudden, you start seeing these light bulbs coming on. Like, oh, we didn't need to vamp our waiting room because that cost us $100,000. Oh yeah, let's take a couple dollars out of it. So all of a sudden, sometimes it's those visuals that people just need that clarity. So we were talking this morning in one of our staff meetings as far as what if we did a real simple happy face, medium face, and a sad face? Where's your business at on this chart? And some business owners are going, that's exactly what I need. Others, I just need a simple graph. Just show me a simple, how am I doing versus budget? Okay, I can read that. And then some really like the 20-page reports. So it's really sitting down with a business leader and just understanding what's their communication style. And once you do that, it just makes it so much easier to come along the side and, hey, let's make sure we're communicating in that realm. Not that education isn't happening along the way, but just getting that clarity so they know and they can sleep at night. That's the fun part.
Well, that's a gift to be able to make the complex understandable. And I love that you do that with business owners to help them to sleep at night, to help them find that peace that comes from knowing, hey, this is under control. Yeah. This is not just, in the land of, boy, I hope that all works out.
Yes.
which is where so many are.
Yeah, absolutely. A friend of mine, Alex Judd, that has a coaching group called Path for Growth, he talked about a CFO is like running your financial guidance like you're driving through the fog. And you might be on the right path, but you can't really see what's ahead. And so just bringing in somebody that can help, almost like some really great LED lights, that can show you where the potholes are coming. And hey, if you take this detour, you can get to where you're trying to get to faster. So I just thought his analogy of driving through the fog, that can be pretty true for a lot of business owners sometimes.
Well, clarity is kindness.
Yeah.
Clarity is kindness with other people, is kindness with your team. It's most often kindness with yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what grants that peace.
Yes.
So, at this point in your journey, you have to lead at a higher level today than you did 5 or 10 years ago.
Yes.
And that same thing is going to be true 5 or 10 years from now. How do you continue to level up your game with the new leadership skills that your team and your clients are going to need you to have?
Yeah. I was with a group of business leaders just participating as a member of a roundtable group this week. And there was a leader that was probably had about 20 team members. And his, your question was right on target, where he's like, oh, I still want to get out in the field and do all these things. And he goes, I just don't have time to do everything. And I think part of it is learning to lead, is different than doing some of the day-to-day things that was fun in the beginning. And so, we talk about developing what we call success statements. What's the success statement for your role today look like? And so it's really defining, for me to be successful in this stage, in this role, here's the things that should be happening. And so for our team, we actually do that for each staff member, including and I'll actually go through in red, yellow, and green with our COO. How am I doing in this area? How am I doing in this area? And like, for instance, William, one of mine is, how am I leading the vision and mission of the company? And how am I making that clear? I am making it clear, I guess would be this statement. I am making it clear to our team. And so that can be things like, a message I put out every week as far as, hey, here's a story about a core value that I saw in action this week, or something along those lines, to just be reinforcing, guys, here's what we need to be doing. So, but it's real helpful. So it's redefining that, I think, periodically, as far as what the needs of our organization is. One of the things that was really pivotal for us this past year was moving to a visionary integrator model. And what that looks like is really my role has gotten to move more into that visionary role, which I just love. And we've got a great COO who's moved into that role, which is more of that integrator. And she can actually run the day-to-day operations and just do an amazing job getting into the details like I never could, because that's her skill. And so it's continually learning from others and applying some of those lessons. And so that's been helpful for us. And I can see that continuing.
Oh, I love that. That model is one that I have many of my clients moving toward. The EOS model is just so helpful.
Absolutely.
So is there a book that has made a really big difference in your journey that you would recommend to the leaders who are listening?
About 350 of them. You want me to just start listing those out?
Just get it going. Get it going.
It is interesting because I think there's different ones in different stages of business or life or situations you may be going through. And so I go back to, 25 years ago, and some of those early ones that were so helpful. I think more recently, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer.
Yes.
Great book. A Strength of Purpose, I mentioned earlier, by Elizabeth Dixon. Soundtracks by John Acuff.
One of my favorites.
There you go. I think those kind of things are so helpful. And the last one I'll mention, The 6 Types of Working Genius by Patrick Lencioni. Yes. So probably another one that you're familiar with.
100%.
Those are just a few that off the top that I could think of. But I would say one of the things when I talked about that year 10 being a pivotal moment, I had not been a reader up to that point. And it was really that reading, getting input from others, that has, again, been so helpful. So yeah, if there's folks out there that aren't reading, please add a few books to your list this year. There's just so much great information, that can just help push you forward as a leader, as a parent, as a spouse, wherever you're at in life. So
that's so true. Rusty, every time we talk, I want to continue the conversation.
Yes.
I learned so much in our conversations. I'm so grateful today that you have shared so open-handedly from your journey and the insights that you've gained along the way. I know our listeners are going to want to stay connected to you and continue to learn more from you and about what you're doing. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I'd say LinkedIn, Rusty Fulling at LinkedIn, and then our company website, fullingmgmt.com, fullingmanagement.com. Those would be the two ways to stay connected. So, hey, I sure appreciate your time. And it was fun to visit before we hit the record button too, and talk about family and stages of life and some of that as well. So,
absolutely. Rusty, thank you so much again.
Have a great day. Thanks.
Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.
If today's episode resonated with you, you need to be at the Scale with Stability Summit this April. I'll be there, along with many of my clients. This event is packed with real strategies to help you scale without losing what matters most. Standard tickets are already 25% off, and you can take an extra 20% off with code Catalytic20 at checkout. Go to scalewithstability.com now to lock in your spot. I'd love to see you there.